Does it feel like every part of your life is divided? Every scenario, every environment, your church, your school, your work, your friends, left, right, conservative, liberal, religious, secular. It seems you always have to take a side. This is a conversation between a progressive Christian and a conservative atheist who happen to be great friends. Welcome to Living on Common Ground.
Do you think if we met today, we would still be friends?
I don't know, but we're friends now.
A mob is no less a mob because they're with you.
Man, so what? We won a few games. And y'all fools think that's something? Man, that ain't nothing, y'all. And you know what else? We ain't nothing either. Yeah, we came together in camp. Cool. But then we're right back here and the world tells us that they don't want us to be together. We fall apart like we ain't a damn bit of nothing, man.
No, okay. So yeah, I want to record this because I think it's relevant to what we're going to talk about. Okay, so you started this conversation about how do you know that when you put a seed in the ground, it's going to grow? And I said, well, you know, because I saw it as a kid. I saw somebody and yes, okay. So you've seen it once. How do you know it'll happen again?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no ultimate record somewhere that we all go and consult.
Okay.
It's nothing like that. It's just all us, just humans.
Mm-hmm.
And if I zoom out in my mind, there's like this long line of humans back to, I think back to a common ancestor and to, whatever. That like somehow just said, do this, and then plants grow up with food.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next person said, okay, I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
We just keep doing it.
So at some point you have to believe someone else what they tell you.
Yes, we all just kind of believe that if we do this thing, it will work.
Right.
Turns out it does. But we think that we will do things that will work that don't work all the time.
Sure. Okay, so I'm thinking right now about the scientific method of empiricism, right? It has to be, like an observable, repeatable.
Yeah, something like
right.
that. Yeah.
And so I would say, like, with that, the best that you have is an educated guess that this will work again, because someone told you, probably someone showed you, and then over time it becomes more and more concrete in your head because it continues.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that it's because someone showed me and told me, and then I just keep doing it?
Yeah.
But we think like,
and if you go all the way back, right? Because I've thought about this too. Like, someone had, in my mind, the planting thing. Someone at some point made an observation that did you notice that when this thing falls off of that plant, or when this falls off of that tree, all of a sudden another tree starts growing there? And then said, well, what if we took that thing that's falling off of that plant or that tree, or, a tree is a plant, but, and we planted, and we took one and then we planted it over here. Would it work? And then they tried it and they were like, oh my gosh, it worked. And that plant, we eat stuff. So what if we took the things that seem to be making that grow and we planted a bunch of them? And then it worked. And you're like, oh my gosh, we don't have to go gathering anymore. We can now become, and I'm sure this is what they said, we can now move out of the hunter-gatherer stage.
That's what they said
and
to
move
themselves.
into an agricultural society. That's exactly what they said.
I've heard this described to, and part of this is like, we have to imagine this happening for people, people who it seems to me like would have had to have been less evolved So it's not in that cognitive way. No one's sitting and going, I noticed, right? It seems to me like it would have to be something that was like instinctive initially somehow. And I have heard this described that the progression from hunter-gatherer to stationary, or whatever word you want to use for that, stationary farming, right?
Agrarian?
Sedentary, where you're in one place, where you stop moving, that there was a lot of what we might consider quote unquote planting done by the hunter, by the movers, by the nomadic type people, where they would move from here to then there and to maybe there's like 5 different places that this group of people would move to throughout the year or whatever.
Yeah.
To get, because they knew like this would grow here at this time, or they would be able to find food there. You go here when the sun is like this, because then the food grows there, or there's wild animals or whatever.
Sure.
And that there would have been, at some point, a progression of like, we throw seeds or something. We throw the fruit down on the ground here before we leave. And then when we come back, there's more food for us. But I just think about this because like, it's almost a faith thing. It almost feels like faith. So we have tomatoes, and we have lots of tomatoes in our garden. We have like 8 garden beds.
If you ever have too many,
we have
just let me know.
I'll bring some for you next time I come in. I think we have like 12 garden beds, and Krista plants tons of stuff. She has like a whole system. It's very cool. She has a friend that comes down from Indiana, and they have seed weekend.
Oh yeah, I remember you guys talking about that.
Very fun.
Yeah.
And so they plan it all out.
Sounds like a great time.
Okay, so she's got all of those, right? Now, last year we noticed something that happened that this year went insane, which is my chickens eat the tomatoes, and then they must poop them out. Okay, they plant the seeds. I'm sure of it. They're planting the seeds this year that will grow next year.
Interesting.
So last year we had a tomato plant that grew right next to where we keep our garbage cans. So we call them the trash tomatoes. And it was the biggest. I mean, it's like a hedge. This thing is so huge.
Because it also got fertilized.
Because it got fertilized at the right time. Right. This year, I had one grow. So now that I know that this happens, I try not to, when I'm mowing the lawn or I'm weed eating or whatever, and I see one of them come up, I don't pull them. I just let them grow wherever they grow in the property. And so this year, right next to the the front porch, one started to grow, and I just watched it. And so now this is the front porch. So that's not the chickens. That means some other birds were planting it in the front yard, which we had like robin nests and stuff in our front yard. So a bird planted it clearly. Now that's my assumption. Okay, I'll get to my point in a second. But so I call them porch tomatoes. Again, this thing grew. It's as big as the hedge that's in the front porch, and just constantly producing. We took there's a place next to the fence in the backyard where when I cleaned out the chicken pen, took all the extra topsoil. Every once in a while I try to like dig out some and then put new sawdust down or whatever, I took it all out and I put it over by the fence with the intention of using it for the garden beds, because it's all chicken poop in there, so it's great fertilizer, right? Well, we didn't, forgot to. But then when tomato season came, we have what we call our forest of tomatoes. I'm not kidding. There's probably 50 tomato plants that grew up next to the fence. It covers the entire area right there, right? Okay, so all of this is my point with this. If I'm somebody who hasn't been told this is what's happening and I believe it, I would just see these things growing in random places. It seems like to me. Also, the tomatoes that Krista has grown in the garden beds, a lot of them like really struggled and didn't do well. And so to your point, like if you were, some human, I don't know, 25,000 years ago or whatever, and you go, I'm going to try to plant this. I'm going to try to put this in the ground over here. I mean, you could put it in the ground and then maybe it doesn't come up because that happens.
Yeah.
Maybe it comes up and then
especially
it doesn't come
if it's
up the next
me.
year.
Mm-hmm.
So like, but I guess my point is like, it just kind of, when I zoom out on humanity, it just seems so interesting that like as a species, we've been pushing information forward every generation.
Mm-hmm.
Every new generation has to be told, if you want to grow food, this is what you do. You take a seed and you put it in the ground and then you water it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that generation has to believe the people who told them because there's no, and that's for everything too. There's no like directory.
So do you ever
that
think
we all consult?
What do you ever think? Has there ever been an example of when what was being pushed forward was wrong?
Well, I mean, Richard Dawkins would say that's what religion is.
Okay.
That it's a mind virus that has been pushed forward.
That this is what we believe.
That these are correct things or whatever.
Yeah.
But of course, tons of things that have been wrong that get pushed forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that we would now say are obviously wrong. We would say demon possession is obviously wrong, even though
so at one point it was observable. We believed it. This is our explanation for it. This is how that happens. Then we start coming up with psychoanalysts, psychology, right? And we start coming up with what we believe are better explanations than demon possession.
Mm-hmm. But you could have been a child
who
was born. You kind of wake up in your 4th or 5th year. You are told about demons, this other world, these spirits. Sometimes they possess. You would know, not believe. You would know that this is what it would be part of the structure of the world in the same way that gravity is part of the structure of our world. We don't see it.
I wonder
we don't understand it. But it's part of our structure.
I wonder how long it takes for something to become like that's just part of our structure, right? Like how long did it take for the first generation, like just accepted as fact that planting seeds grew plants?
Yeah.
Right? Like how many generations had to, well, no, that's not like, and so I'm wondering like how many generations does it take before, because you bring up the demon possession one, right? Like you still have people today that would argue vehemently for demon possession.
Yes.
Right?
And it's a structure, I think, that is beneficial in some ways. And I could argue why it's beneficial. But anyway, go ahead.
But no, so my point is, and how long ago, like, is it Freud? Like, is that the first, or is it prior to Freud? And he always gets sort of like credit for being this guy. But when people began to come up with other explanations for it. And so I wonder, like, is there going to be at some point, generations later, that the idea of demon possession just doesn't even cross the mind, right? Or what are other things like that? For example, okay, we'll look at the dehumanization of persons of color in our country, right? Like like when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, and they're talking about all of the rights for all of the white landowners, male. They're not even considering the slaves because, well, they're actually only a certain percentage human, right? Like they're not really.
I got to argue with that.
Well, anyway, okay. That's fine. That's
I'm
fine.
Be a pain.
No. But my point is this: like at some point, that thought process has gone away, but there's still racism. All right, argue with me. Go ahead. I don't care. We've already established that basically the best way for me to remain your friend is to just let you always be right. If you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to the previous episode.
Okay, the 3/5 clause is always a big pet peeve of mine because it gets brought up a lot. The 3/5 clause was implemented by Northerners, not by Southerners, by non-slave owners, not by slave owners, because the slave owners wanted every slave to be counted as a full person.
Sure, I see what you're saying.
It was the non-slave owners that wanted them to not be counted as a full person so that the slave holding South would not have any more power in the united government than they already had, which was tremendous power. And as far as the Declaration of Independence,
so you're talking about for representation within the government.
For representation only, and it was a recognition that look, they got a lot more population than we have up here, and if we have proportional representation in the Congress, they are never losing power. We don't have a shot. Us non-slave owning states, right? And so we want to have a shot because eventually we want to eliminate slavery. And so that's never going to happen.
All right. So I feel like I did a Mott and Bailey, and that's not what I tried to do. But I do. Let's just take that off the table for a second. There still is a difference in belief.
Yeah, I know
of what other people are, right?
Yeah.
And so at one point, there was a belief that it's absolutely okay to have these people as your property.
Sure.
Right.
And also there's
and not even question it. But then so generations have gone and I can see like there's this process that happens where, and I don't think it's like an overnight thing, right? And maybe it's safer to stick with your seed analogy, but I think that this is a good example.
No, I think it's a good question.
Because I think that what happens is, okay, so first what has to happen is a crack in the belief. There has to be something that seems to be out of what we've always believed. There has to be something that causes that question. And then we don't just immediately jettison the belief, right? Then we say, well, okay, maybe that was an anomaly. We're going to continue. But then we continue to reframe it, right? And then so it went from, so using the slave example, and again, I have not thought this out. So if it's coming into my mind right now. All right. So we have okay. Yeah, that's fine. All right. So slavery ends. Some of us still believe that they should be slaves. Some of us don't. Now you get to the point where probably I would assume, I don't know, but that most people in the United States don't believe that we should have slaves still.
Right.
But let's go back and at one point when slavery is first ended, there are people that still believe, yes, they should be slaves. And there are some people that, no, they shouldn't be slaves. And there are some people that had slaves and are like, well, it's probably the right thing, whatever. And then over time, generations happen. And then it's like, well, yeah, okay, they shouldn't be slaves, but it doesn't mean they should have the same rights that we have, right? I mean, obviously that. And so there's this evolution of thought that then, we'll put into place Jim Crow laws and we'll do this, we'll do that. Okay. Now, they shouldn't do that either. And then it becomes, well, okay, that's okay, but they're still not as good as us. Why? Well, because, right? And we can build up our things. But then eventually I think you'll get at, and I don't know how many generations it takes, and that's kind of the whole point, is how many generations does it take before that belief, that original belief is done, right? And so if it was, and I think that there are some beliefs that will, like they continue forever, like the seed thing, right? As long as that seems to be right for every generation, and I think almost every generation has to say, yeah, that seems to be right, that seems to be right, that seems to be right. And then you push it on to the next generation. And so if it's already started to come in question, then it becomes, for some people, they push it on. Other people are like, well, right? Okay. So all of that to transition to this. There are things right now that we are debating in this world. Some people are fully convinced that it's a real thing and it needs to be pushed on to the next generations. Some people are becoming convinced that no, actually, we might have thought that was real, but I don't know if that needs to be something that the next generation, that we need a hand on. And there are some people who are like, it was never real. What are you even talking about? Right. And so one of those, it's a hot topic right now, is what's going on with our environment. Right. Because there are some people like, well, it's always been climate change and this and that. And, And then people are like, oh, obviously it's global warming and we're going to burn all up.
Mm-hmm.
Your comment was that environmentalism as a political practice has at its core a desire to control.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I want to talk a little bit about environmentalism. And I also want to point out that I think that this is it's way more nuanced than what we often want to talk about when we talk about environmentalism.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you tell me what you were talking about first. And did I do a decent job of connecting that, or was that just BS and I just sort of threw that all together?
No, it is good. And I do think that, something that I heard Ricky Gervais say one time when he was talking to Stephen Colbert about religion and science, and you think what you want of this, but I think that it is relevant. His point was if you got rid of all the religious books, religious teachings tomorrow, if you could, in 1,000 years, they would show up in different ways. They wouldn't show up the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you got rid of the science books, they would show up in the same way in 1,000 years. I'm not exactly sure that I would agree with him completely. I think I'd quibble a little bit, but I understand what he's saying, because what he's saying is that that the scientific method, if you use the scientific method, it's supposed to be what you talked about before. It's observation, experimentation, and then repetition.
Replication, yeah.
And so I think that some of these concepts that you're talking about that, have seemed to have changed over the years, I think they have changed. I don't see human civilization as a progression. Like, I think actually evolution is probably a better analogy in the way that I understand evolution to actually work, which is not we are progressing to be a more kind of refined version of the previous model, right? It's not like 2.0 and 3.0 or whatever. It's just different based on the stresses that the environment places on the organism at any given time, whatever, And so I think that's interesting. But you asked me about my particular statement. Environmentalism specifically. I think environmentalism as a political practice is the attempt to get humanity to change what it's doing that it does not want to change. I think that's, as a political practice, that's what it's doing.
Okay.
So that's not to say that, we shouldn't worry about clean water or clean air. That's nothing to say about, is human caused climate change real, or the entire cause of any kind of change that we're seeing, that we might see, that, that has nothing to do with any of that. It's what I meant by the statement, environmentalism as a political practice. I'm talking about setting policies and enforcing those policies. That has at its base the desire for control. I think that it has at its base the assumption that I know what you should do. You don't want to do what I think you should do. And there is a greater mission beyond that I know that's beyond your ability to do what you want to do. So therefore I need to control what you want to do. And so, I think, again, I think that's kind of, I don't know. To me, it seems like a prima facie true statement, just like the public school system being primarily indoctrination. whether or not
last week.
Yeah. Whether or not you think that is like, I think that people with a particular worldview, I think that that it's legitimate to say, yes, we are trying to control because we think you should be controlled because you're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. But when you state it that way, nobody wants to acknowledge that.
Right. You don't want to be the one, because we also have another virtue in our society, which is, it is the victim oppressor or dichotomy, right? And it's more virtuous. It is not virtuous to be on the oppressor.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think it's, I got to think about this for a second, but because it's a podcast, I'll try to think out loud. So I guess I don't have a problem acknowledging that it is a desire for control. My question would be, what isn't? Can you think of anything that's a political practice that's not a desire to control?
No.
Right? So specifically to pick out environmentalism.
The reason that I pick out environmentalism is because I think that it cloaks itself in virtue. That's why.
Don't most?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, maybe you could argue with me. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can argue with you or not. I'm just trying to think. Like, it seems to me, going back to your idea of oppressor, right? Victim, oppressor. The value that we have. Nobody wants to be the oppressor. Nobody wants to be the victim either. But
I disagree with that.
Well, they don't actually want to be a victim, but they might like to be viewed as a victim.
Oh, okay. That's what I meant. I meant social. Okay, yeah.
People want to be viewed as victims all the time.
Yes.
Oh,
okay.
I totally agree with that.
I got you.
Yeah, in fact,
nobody wants to actually.
There's a whole
be
model.
victimized.
There's a whole model based on how to break out of a cycle when someone has constantly trying to portray themselves as a victim.
Well, Tom Holland's argument on that is that we have that virtue, that highest virtue in the West because of Christianity. It is a Christian virtue because we worship a executed slave. That the whole flipping on its head that we see as like the normal state of things, that the underdog, the one who is done the right thing but being oppressed, they're the good ones. That is not what the assumption was of the Roman people,
right?
And for a lot of other cultures, that it's a Christian virtue. I think that's interesting. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm trying to think right now if that would be a Stoic virtue too. Anyway,
I don't think it is.
I'd have to think about it.
I think it's pretty uniquely.
Yeah, I don't think a Stoic would want to be a victim because there's this idea of rising above your circumstances. All right,
being separate from the.
Yeah. All right. So, but I'm derailing us on that one. Well, I'm not going to argue with you because I'm a good Christian and I'm going to allow you to
win.
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Right. Because I'm going to be the victim today.
Good.
All right. No. Okay. So yes.
How many people can we anger on one podcast?
Environmentalism as a political practice it has a desire to control, and all of them do. And so the big difference you're saying is that this one though wraps itself in a way that it wants to appear virtuous, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And I said, well, don't they all? And you said, no, I don't think so. Give me an example of one that is just like, dude, here, I'm going to control you and I'm going to give you the finger.
Yeah, I don't think that it's give you the finger. I think that, I think, for instance, laws against theft, I think, I just don't think that they, that someone says you shouldn't steal. We're going to have we're going to control your desire to steal.
You don't think that's virtuous?
I do think that it's virtuous. I don't think what I mean by cloak itself in virtue is I don't think that it's. I think that environmentalism says we're doing this for your own good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that laws against stealing are no. We have a right to our own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think laws against murder. It's not for your own good. We're going to control your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's not just cloaked in virtue. It's cloaked in this kind of, what is the right, well, it's for your own good. It's kind of paternalistic. I'm doing this for you. It's the seatbelt laws of public policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm fully against also.
But it's an attempt to control based on I'm being virtuous. I'm trying to protect
you.
Yeah, I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to help you.
Vaccine laws. Here, I'm just trying to lob as many bombs as I can.
But they're all virtuous. I mean, but they're all attempts to control. But that's to me at the core of what any of these are. And then watch the way I bring this back to our earlier conversation. Abolitionism, the abolitionist political movement, in an attempt to control Southern slave owners.
Right, but not
trying
for
to take
their
control.
own good. Not for the slave owner's own good.
But
not because
I think it was still wrapped in virtue.
Yes, I understand that.
Absolutely. And it's what's best for humanity. It's what's best for our nation.
Yeah, forget about the fact that I said virtue. I'll concede on that. What I meant is that you got
Everybody heard it? Everybody heard it. I concede on that. All of the times I've said it, I've been vindicated. All right, go ahead.
What I meant was the four. It's the.
Did you like the hands in the air?
Yeah,
too?
it's good.
Yeah,
I deserved it. And I can't think of a concise term for this, but it's the for your own good. Like abolitionism was
sure. They didn't ever believe that it was what was good for the slave owner. They believed that it was the right thing for humanity, for whatever,
right thing for those humans. Who
and
were
you might even argue.
enslaved.
I think you could probably even argue that not all abolitionists thought it was even. They didn't even really care about what was good for the slave. There might have been something else going on there too. But we're not getting into that conversation.
Yeah, a lot of them thought this is going to be real bad for the freed slaves, and it was rough for a lot of people who were freed.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's rough.
And we've seen how it's affect. I mean, this is generational.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But yeah, so I guess that's the thing is like the reason that I singled it out is it's the, well, it's a controversial topic, but also, I think that it gets cloaked in this, like, I'm just trying to do it for you.
Yeah. And I think that's, I can't argue with that. I think that that's probably true. I think where you can start to get a divide is where some people think that is true.
Yes.
And some people don't.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that, I would, just like I would feel better about, I might still oppose, but I would feel better about somebody saying, yes, we know that healthcare is not a right. However, that being as it is, we still are going to provide healthcare to 100% of humans in our nation because we want to raise the floor. And so we're going to have a minimum level of healthcare. It's not going to be whatever. You know what I mean? Like I have this, it's a problem, but I have this like thing where I want it to be more precise. What are we actually saying here?
What are we actually trying to accomplish? Well, and that's the thing about environmentalism, which I think is interesting too, is because within what you would call maybe that camp, there's actually a divide.
There's a lot of divides in there. You're totally right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I would like to, because I took time to record this, to just share a short little clip about environmentalism. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Probably the most common manifestation of environmentalism is opposition to global warming or climate change. Rising sea levels are clearly a threat to many natural systems and many animals and plant species, so fighting against climate change is often seen as being done for the environment. The other common manifestations of environmentalism are typically ecological, done to protect more specific habitats, like protecting penguins on some Atlantic island from an oil spill. At a first glance, these two interpretations of environmentalism have very little to do with each other. This is correct, and they frequently find themselves in opposition to each other. Just look at wind turbines. The climate change opponents are generally quite happy about them being used to generate electricity since they have no greenhouse gas emissions, unless you count the factories where they were made. Ecological activists, on the other hand, are quick to point out that birds might not be as clever or have as good vision as we might hope, and it's very unlikely to end well for said birds when they fly into one of the turbines. The same issue arises for nuclear energy. No greenhouse gases, but the nuclear waste has to be disposed in some way, probably in some poor squirrel's backyard. So that's that. Environmentalism is all about protecting the environment, which is fairly obvious. But you know it's important to politics when even the self-proclaimed environmentalists can't agree on what actual thing they want to protect.
Okay. As I was listening to that again, I was reminded of when President Trump was talking about the wind turbines and talking about birds.
Mm-hmm.
And
and whales. There is a real legitimate concern about their effect on whales as well.
Wind turbines?
Wind turbines in offshore wind turbines.
Okay.
Yes.
So everyone kind of there was a big kerfuffle. Like a lot of people laughed at him when he said that.
Yeah.
And granted, he probably didn't articulate himself well.
Because he's saying it like Trump says stuff.
Yeah. Right. But I think, oh my gosh, this is twice in 2 weeks. I sided with DeSantis and now I'm supporting Trump in something he said.
Now I'm raising my arm. I'm just kidding.
No, I just see. I a couple weeks ago I missed the what was it? It was going to be the rapture, and obviously this is the end of the world because look what's happening here. But I kind of feel like he was making the point that you can't just say this is what environmentalism, right? Because there are issues, and I'm assuming that he was trying to make that point instead of just saying, but what about the poor birds, or however he put it, which he didn't sound
like
great.
You could read Michael Schellenberger's stuff, who is a left-leaning or has been forever. Journalist who then became a writer who his push on this topic is that basically that we shouldn't be alarmists about any of these things. Not that we shouldn't be monitoring and working on these, but the alarmist position is in my opinion, it has been adopted because people who have been studying this and believe that they see a problem are frustrated that they can't get large groups of people to get on side, and so have been ramping up their rhetoric about it. So that's the Michael Schellenberger thing. And so this is the thing about Trump. Like, I just feel like if people could realize what a populist is and how a populist talks, like just realize like he's a populist. So every time he's talking about something, unless it has to do with foreign trade imbalances, that is the only thing that he has been actually I think has a position on for the last 30 or 40 years. I think that's the only thing he actually cares about is foreign trade imbalances, because I've read about stuff that he's written, back in the 80s and the 90s. He actually cares about that. Everything else, I think he has no position on at all. He's a complete populist. So when he talks about this kind of stuff, he says it in ridiculous ways because he doesn't actually care about any of it.
Right.
He's just a populist. He's just a guy who goes, anyway,
what do you want? Yeah. What do you want me to say? Okay. Yeah.
I'll say that.
Sure.
Right.
Yep. All right. So, does it make it wrong then? If that's the purpose,
Does make it wrong? The fact that it
does it make environmentalism as a political practice wrong? Because if it does, I would argue then which political practice isn't wrong?
Yeah, this is where I have difficulty because of my libertarian leanings.
Right.
Because I want to go, yep, you're right. Pretty much every political practice is wrong because of that.
Because it's an attempt to try to take control.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's because at the bottom of all of it is if you don't do what we say, we'll put you in a box. However, I also, and I've talked about this before, I'm not an extreme, I'm not an anarchist, and I wouldn't even consider myself a minarchist, just this side of anarchy. So I recognize that I am willing to, divest freedoms. I want to be clear-eyed when we do it. And so along those lines, I think in a lot of worldviews, no, it doesn't make it wrong that it's trying to control. Because I think that you're right. I think all government policy is trying to control. It absolutely is. Even if it's, even down to the smallest form of government, the family, the nuclear family, any rules are made to control. That's, otherwise it wouldn't be a rule. Right. So I get that. So I guess I don't think that makes it inherently wrong, except for every new regulation just makes me squeamish because of my libertarian tendencies.
And especially, I think, if we go back to our original conversation, which at first may have seemed like it didn't relate. Is at the end of the day, a lot of these things we're doing what I'm assuming that whatever position people are on, they're doing it because they think it's right. And they think that ultimately it's probably what's best for everyone involved, right? But the question becomes, the point becomes it's probably going to take generations before we actually know if that's true or not.
Yeah, which is a big part of the reason that I think that it's a big part of the reason why our founders set up the system to move real slowly and to not be very effective. I get very nervous about effective government personally. For exactly this reason, because I don't think that we'll know for maybe, for years and years if this policy or that policy was the best one.
Yeah, and I think the issue with environmentalism right now is the way I understand it, the way I hear it, is yes, it's going to take generations, but the thing we got to be careful, but the thing that the cautionary tale is, we might not have generations to determine, because maybe by the time we determine it actually is a problem, it might be too late.
And this is what the Schellenbergers of the world are saying. We got to step back from this kind of talk.
Right. I'm not saying that I am not, whether I agree with that or not, that's not my point. My point is that seems to be what the argument is. Right.
Yeah. Listen, it is, to me, it is the same as what you're talking about. It's the same as my grandmother wanting to make sure that I say correct things and live a correct way so that I don't go to hell. Because in her mind, by the time you realize that you should have done something different, it's too late.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's why, I think that it gets described as a religion a lot of times. Not necessarily environmentalism in general, although I think that there's been progression. I remember in the 90s when environmentalism meant something different than just, and I know people are going to argue with me about this, but they're wrong. Meant something different than just global warming, right? Which then became climate change. It meant more along the lines of the LA air was not fit to breathe, and we had poisoned waters and, stuff like that.
The Cuyahoga River caught on fire.
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. It's the stuff that, frankly, that RFK Jr. was suing corporations to try to fix in the 90s and the early aughts. And I think a lot of that has a lot of people who were in fights around that progressed to, changed their focus, changed the focus. But, there's some ways in which I could be considered an environmentalist. For sure, I'm very concerned about. I can never pronounce the actual chemical, but the chemical, the main chemical in Roundup. I'm very concerned about those types of chemicals just being everywhere. That I
accidentally sprayed my feet one time.
Yeah,
because I do everything barefoot in my yard.
Yeah.
I don't mow barefoot, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
But everything else I do barefoot. Yeah, and I was spraying for stuff. I just sprayed right over my feet. And I was like,
Well, to be frank, I mean, it's probably the same as just spraying it and then walking over it.
Yeah. Sure.
And the thing is, like, I'm not even, I've used it. I'm sure it's all over my ground because it's supposed to, glyphosate. That's what it is. I don't know. So I have things that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, you're using chicken poo to fertilize your tomatoes.
I know.
So you're obviously an environmentalist.
Yeah.
All right. Did we find common ground on this?
Well, I think that both of us. Well, okay. So I don't want to just do the easy one of like both of us see that
both of us like tomatoes
as a truism.
Yeah.
No, but I think I will say that I don't. I understand the tragedy of the commons, and I don't want a poisoned world any more than anybody else does. That makes me concerned too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Is that?
Yeah. No.
Okay?
I completely disagree. I completely agree. I almost said disagree with you. I want a poisoned world. No, of course I don't. I think that we definitely agree on that.
And you got me to concede a point earlier.
I know. This is now my favorite episode. So, all right. Good job. Thanks.
Yeah. See ya.
Thank you for listening to Living on Common Ground. Please follow wherever you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. You can also find a link to our social in the description. The more people we have living on common ground, the better the world will be.